The movie opens with Maria Brennan, a 17-year-old girl, getting ready for school. She shares a lavish breakfast with her parents, Dan and Amy, at their luxurious house. Maria leaves the dining room to smoke. Her buddy Lily snatches a cigarette, and the two of them taunt one another cheerfully. Maria is stopped by a bully named Mark inside the school bus. As soon as they get to school, Maria's timidness and social awkwardness are clear. Maria and Lily hang out near the school's ice rink later that day. Lily is a figure skater, and she skates with her boyfriend Sean. Maria watches them make out, while having envious and unhappy eyes. Amy questions Maria about her prom preparations at home. Maria believes prom is pointless and doesn't want to go. She yells at her mother before leaving. Dan worries about Maria's lack of interest in guys, or anything socially related, unlike the normal overprotective parent. Maria overhears her father referring to her as screwed up. Maria goes to the vanity table in her parents' bedroom to attempt to put on cosmetics. She pauses when she notices something sticking out from the edge of the mirror. It's an ultrasound of twins, and this leaves Maria with an ominous feeling in the middle of the night. On the vanity in the bathroom, Maria takes care of herself. Her reflection in the mirror abruptly turns to face her as she is about to finish. Maria stumbles as a result. She stands and gently wipes the steam off her mirror. She gradually reveals her reflection, which is still moving independently. Maria leaves the restroom in shock and terror. As morning comes, Maria goes to her parents and shares her thoughts. She attempts to tell Dan about the previous night to help her feel less anxious. Yet, he completely dismisses her worries and comments that she seems awful. Dan then encourages Maria to apply cosmetics. Maria notices Mark waiting for her as she walks to the bus. To pick up Maria, Lily drives up in her brand new Porsche. Before joining Lily, Maria flips Mark off. The two then wait outside Sean's house. Maria leaves the front, and the couple begins to make out. Mark knocks Maria over in the school's halls. While helping her stand, Sean pushes Mark. Nobody has ever stood up for Maria before. They smile at each other and proceed to class. Later, Maria relaxes in her bathtub at home, spending time away from the cruel outside world. A baby's cries are suddenly heard when she is underwater. Her peace of mind is disturbed when she watches the birth of an entity called Aram in her brain. Maria can't fall asleep after the bath. She responds to the name that is called out to her. Maria goes back to the restroom to speak with her reflection, her polar opposite, Aram. She has a commanding atmosphere and is personable and self-assured. Maria's troubles are something Aram offers to assist with. Aram is who Maria wants to be and could be, an assertive woman that won't let anyone step on her. The next morning at the breakfast table, Amy and Dan notice Maria's transformation. She declares that she does, in fact, want to attend prom. Maria tells Lily at school that she wants to take skating lessons in preparation for the winter prom. They decide on a location for skating the next day, and Lily accepts. Maria stops by the office of her father. Dan is a plastic surgeon. When Maria waits for her father outside, the receptionist talks with her. Dan welcomes Maria, but a patient requests to see him first. Maria notices a peculiar tension between the two as her father examines the patient's nose. An uncomfortable moment comes as Maria and Dan watch a movie with indecent scenes. She then notices Mark, who is with someone. They leave the movie theater swiftly, and Maria appears tense. When she runs into Mark, he introduces himself to her dad. Maria receives a fist bump from Mark as he bids her farewell. After they depart, Mark and his pals laugh because she doesn't abandon him. Dan brings up Maria's forthcoming birthday as they are driving home. He extends an early gift by inviting her to the clinic tomorrow. Returning to the restroom, Maria is questioned by Aram about her father. She doesn't think Dan genuinely cares about her, but Maria is in denial. Maria is convinced that Dan wants to protect her from Mark and the other bullies because he has promised her a car for her birthday. Maria goes to her father's clinic the next day after school. It turns out that her father gave her a surgery as a gift rather than a car. As Maria never lets her hair down, he decides to make her ears smaller. He also intends to reduce Maria's nose size. She gets emotional as a result of realizing that her father won't accept her flaws. Maria concedes that Aram was correct later that evening. Then Aram turns her attention to their mother. They perceive Amy as being weak for tolerating Dan's poisonous behavior. The two giggle while discussing how dysfunctional their family. Amy abruptly walks in and wonders who Maria was speaking to. When Amy starts looking for Maria starts laughing hysterically. She departs and discusses Maria's peculiar behavior with Dan. Dan encourages Amy to consume pills to calm her down, rather than listening. He then daubs a cream mask on her face. Dan tells Amy that her nightmares will pass as they normally do, when she says that they are returning. The following day, Maria and Lily travel to a clubhouse they used to visit as kids. They now ditch it and begin practicing. Maria is persuaded by Lily to let go, and when she does, she collapses. Lily ignores her as she attempts to rise up. She then tells Maria, with a cold face, to stay away from Sean. Maria discusses about Lily with Aram at home. Maria is told by Aram that Lily, like every other person in her life, has no concern for her. Maria is reminded of all the times Lily was cruel to her. Maria ignored all the warning flags of their toxic friendship when they were young. Aram tells Maria that she's her only friend now, and Aram can take all the hurt away. All Maria needs to do is switch places with Aram and give her life to Aram. When they are about to kiss while holding hands, Amy calls to Maria. Amy can't help but beam with pride when Maria steps out in her prom attire. Maria arrives at the ice rink for the winter prom. She is overwhelmed by all of the people, lights, and loud music. Sean comes over and holds her hand as she struggles to let go of the grips due to her fear of falling. They move to the center of the rink and start to dance. Maria notices a disappointed Lily while they are intimately holding each other. Maria falls as a result of this. Lily tries to stop Sean as he rushes to assist her. Mark then reaches out his hand and Maria accepts. Maria is then pulled on the ice by Mark. The students watch and laugh as Maria gets dragged. Mark eventually stops and Maria walks out, ashamed. Maria phones Aram from the restroom. She makes the decision to let Aram take her position. They hold hands and kiss in her room as tears run down their cheeks. Maria, who has now fully become Aram, smokes a cigarette in her parents' bedroom. Amy is experiencing nightmares. She has nightmares of giving birth and screaming in agony. The next morning, Amy approaches Aram about prom. She makes up the story that everything went smoothly at school. With a menacing and determined expression, Aram stands in front of the door. Mark teases her as she walks to class. Turning, Aram notices them making fun of her. She slowly advances towards Mark, and he stops laughing. Aram provokes Mark by stroking his crotch and licking his ear. He is speechless, and Aram leaves. Sean follows Aram to give her back her pin. Sean departs as a result of Lily's interruption of them. Despite Lily's best efforts, Aram is aware of her phony politeness. So Aram asks Lily to teach her how to skate once more. Aram practices skating alone in the clubhouse. She eventually pays her father a visit in the hospital. Dan is taken aback to see her. Aram immediately bends forward and kisses his cheek. She abruptly departs after saying that she has missed him. Aram requests that the front desk agent make some hot cocoa for her. Aram checks her logbook while she's gone and makes a patient call. She schedules the patient and lets her know there is a spot available. Aram then reminds the receptionist to call her mother and tell her to come down to the clinic for a date with Dan. When Amy gets a call at home from Dan's office, she is thrilled that he wants to take her out. After some time, Aram sees Amy and the patient walking inside the building simultaneously. They each strive to present themselves well in the elevator, not realizing that they are waiting for the same person. Amy compliments the woman's dress, and she reveals that the dress is Dan's favorite. Amy is shocked and devastated by this. She goes straight out of the clinic. Aram asks Amy about Dan at dinner. Amy only nods in response to her inquiries, since she's not feeling it. Aram beams at her mother, who continues to deny Dan's. She compels her mother to be honest and acknowledge that her father prefers other women to her. Amy slaps her kid because she feels assaulted. She apologizes right away, but Aram ignores her and walks away. Maria confronts Aram about her recent activities as she is in the bathroom and looking in the mirror. Aram tells her to quit opposing her, since all she's doing is what Maria was too terrified to do. Aram is now a substantially better skater at the clubhouse. She stands out near the ice rink and watches Lily and her instructor skate. While Aram zones out, Mark hits the barrier. Mark breaks away from his squad after practice and spots Aram off in the distance. He follows her into the bathroom and hears the running water in the showers. Mark steals a glance, and Aram is standing behind him. She dislocates his knee by hitting it with a hockey stick. Maria calms Mark down and smiles when he cries out in anguish. The next day, Lily and Aram are heading toward the clubhouse. Lily is amazed by Aram's progress on the ice. Lily does a trick to impress her. Surprisingly, Aram acts the same way. Aram then imitates Lily as she does another trick. As they compete, the tension increases. After Lily's more difficult trick, Aram is unable to pull it off. Now again standing, Aram stares blankly at Lily. She starts chasing her, gaining speed as she does so. Lily trips and falls as a result of her weeping. She lies there, bleeding as her skull clashes with the hard cement. Aram observes the demise of her alleged friend. Maria may be seen sobbing on her phone's screen reflection. Aram dials the police, while pretending to be frightened and innocent. Her icy, heartless expression reappears. A detective then wants to interrogate Aram at home, but Amy persuades them to come back another time. Maria questions Aram about her actions in the restroom. While Maria's current desire is for them to trade locations, Aram still hasn't given up on the notion that Maria secretly desires this. At Lily's funeral, Sean is seen amongst the crowd, grieving. The detective makes eye contact with Aram, while expressing his sympathies to Sean. Sean interrupts Aram as she is ready to leave. Sean later gives his girlfriend's culprit a hug and comforts her. Aram leaves her residence undetected at night to meet Sean. While they talk about Lily, he welcomes her at the door and offers Aram in his room to help her forget the agony. Aram sits down in front of Sean, turns to face him, and then admits that she has been having fantasies about him. As he requests Aram to stop putting her hands on his crotch, she instead begins kissing his neck. They know what they are about to do is wrong, but that makes it feel more right. Sean gives in and gets on top of Aram, initiating a lovemaking session. A few nights later, a waiter serves some fresh crab to Aram. She and her father are having dinner together. Despite the tragedy occurring only a few days earlier, Aram appeared completely unfazed by it when Dan inquires as to how she is doing. Aram questions Dan about when he intends to patch things up with Amy, as he hasn't been returning home due to their ongoing argument. Dan promises to try, but is soon sidetracked by her slurps. Dan becomes furious as she begins to behave in an unladylike and nasty manner. He shows Aram her childish behavior. Dan then tells her to sit up straight. Aram complies, but internally she is growing resentful. Aram sends Sean a piece of paper that she tore up in class, after rubbing it all over her. Sean sees the note and recalls the smell. Both of them cut class for the day and leave school. They recreate the passionate acts of intimacy that Lily and Sean used to do often while grieving together in Aram's room. Aram sees the cops outside the school the following day. Sean is hesitant when she suggests that they skip class once more. They check into a motel. Aram brings a liquor bottle with her. As they get into the act, suddenly, Sean's phone rings. His mother is on the line because the cops want to question them. Sean plans to leave, but Aram refuses to go. Aram tries to tempt Sean, and she whispers for him to stay. Sean pushes her and demands to know why she's avoiding the cops. Aram becomes enraged by his rising mistrust, which prompts her to attack him with a bottle. Sean falls to the ground, and his blood stains the rug. Aram goes to the bathroom and sees a hysterical Maria crying her heart out at the demise of her crush. They support one another while feeling down and discouraged. Amy is suffering yet another nightmare at home. Dan may be heard speaking to her earlier self regarding Maria's twin. Dan decided to euthanize the baby since he believed there was no use in keeping her alive because she was disfigured. Dan is now brushing his teeth after finishing work when he hears the doorbell ring. At the door, Aram is too weak to stand by herself. Dan helps her to the surgery room where he gets her some water. While drinking, Aram slips and drops the cup. This frustrates Dan, and as he dries himself up, he turns to see it's Aram. He yells at her to put on her clothes, but Aram continues to. Afterwards, Aram asks her father if he thinks she is beautiful. Aram asks again whether he will love her despite her deformity, to which he answers yes. Dan responds that he will always adore her. Then Aram slashes her father's throat with a scalpel. He collapses to the ground and passes away. Aram wonders, why couldn't her deceased father adore her back then? Cleaning up, she looks in the mirror and asks for Maria, but Maria doesn't answer. When Aram exits the clinic, she discovers that Maria is missing from every reflected surface. When Aram eventually gets home, she joins Amy in bed. Aram and Maria are both shown lying next to their mother in the last frame. The movie ends with Maria eventually vanishing, since she and Aram basically fused at the end.